Good morning, everybody. Welcome back from Solomon Scott Selections here for Sunday, January 29th. For again today's play of the day, quick recap of what happened yesterday. We had a loss in college basketball with Kentucky on the money line at minus 138 on FanDuel. Unfortunately for us, it was a day full of upsets in the top 25, but Kansas was not one of them, as Kentucky did have a couple of chances. They were in striking distance with a couple minutes to go, but every time they got close, Kansas basically made every shot down the stretch, and Kentucky lost the game. It was very competitive, though, but Kentucky just had a couple of, I'd say, unforced errors, which kind of decided the overall game. And Kansas did a great job on the glass. I really thought Kentucky would do a better job on the boards, and that was really the deciding factor. But either way, Kentucky lost and look for a bounce-back winner here on Sunday. And for today's play today, going to pivot to the NFL, looking at the NFC Title game taking place at 3 p.m. Eastern Time between the Niners and the Eagles. Going to take the under 46.5 and minus 120 on FanDuel. Time recording of 1 a.m. Eastern Time. Couple reasons why I'm going to go with the under in this game. First reason, look at both teams defensively all season long. They've been really, really good. The Niners have arguably the best defense in the entire league, as San Francisco is allowing just 16.4 points per game, which ranks first in the league. And the Eagles are allowing just 19.5 points per game, which ranks sixth. So both teams defensively can really bring it, and I do think you'll end up seeing a bit of a defensive slugfest here in this matchup. But to look at the Eagles recently at home, they've been amazing defensively, as the Eagles have allowed less than 21 points in each of their last 4 home games. And the home field advantage might mean a lot because Purdy has really not had to play in, I'd say, difficult elements or colder elements lately, as he's had a lot of home games, and his one recent road game was in a dome in Las Vegas. So I do think you could see Purdy potentially struggle with the colder climate. The weather's not going to be atrocious, but compared to what the Niners have had to deal with, or what they have really had the luxury of dealing with for the last couple of weeks in terms of weather, I do wonder if the Niners might be a little bit flat offensively because of it, and maybe Purdy will look a little bit, I'd say, either rusty or just uncomfortable with the Philadelphia East Coast climate there with about 12-mile-per-hour winds. But either way, I do think you'll end up seeing a bit of a lower scoring start for this game. But you're looking at Philly last week, which is a big reason why I think this total is so high. The Eagles scored 38 points against the Giants last week. However, I do have to at least mention they had 268 rushing yards and only 148 passing yards, which is not too surprising because the Giants' run defense was awful all season long. The Niners, not so much. The Niners have arguably the best run defense in the league, as they're allowing just 79 rushing yards per game, which is the second fewest in the league. We know Jalen Hurts is battling a shoulder injury, which caused him to miss a couple of games to end the year. And even though he looked pretty sharp in the first quarter or so against the Giants, he really didn't have to do much after that. And I do think that facing off against arguably the best defense in the league with a potentially less than 100% shoulder could cause the Eagles some problems offensively if they have to throw the ball a bunch. But to go through the time possession numbers, both teams love to drain a bunch of clock and to go on some long drives. The Niners rank second in the league in time possession, and the Eagles rank eighth. So I think you could see a couple of 6+ minute drives, maybe resulting in some field goals like we saw in that Cowboys 49ers game last week, and that could single-handedly drag the game under the total. But to look at the injury report, both teams should be basically at full strength because it is a winner-go-home game in the conference title game, and the winner goes to a Super Bowl. However, some key weapons are banged up, and I wonder if they will be limited in terms of effectiveness in this game. A.J. Brown injured his hip late in last week's game. He didn't really do much anyway, but the point is we know how big of a threat A.J. Brown is, and if he's less than 100% with the hip injury, I wonder if he will potentially struggle to create extra separation. Christian McCaffrey has a calf injury, and Elijah Mitchell has a groin injury. Both of them will play, but the Niners want to run the ball, and I wonder if the injuries might limit their effectiveness against a pretty underrated defensive line. The Eagles against the run were pretty mediocre this season, but Jordan Davis did miss a couple of games, and he's a very solid defensive tackle, so I do think the Eagles' run defense might be a little bit underrated in this game. But to go through some trends here in the playoffs, both teams have a lot of really good trends to the under, so I picked out a couple. The under is 7-0 in San Francisco's last 7 playoff road games, and the under is 15-5-1 in Philadelphia's last 21 playoff games. So the Niners, I can't say I'm totally surprised by that trend because we know Shanahan can get very conservative at times. We saw it against the Cowboys last week where he really started the game off basically just handcuffing Brock Purdy. He didn't really let him do much early on. He tried to run the ball, didn't exactly work. Eventually, he opened the playbook up a little bit, but we saw a 9-6 score at the half in that Cowboys-Niners game because the Niners really didn't take many shots down the field. And we also saw the Niners offensive line struggle containing DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons. And that's a problem because Philadelphia did lead the league in sacks per game. So I think you'll end up seeing Purdy running for his life a little bit in this game. I think you'll see Shanahan with a bit of a conservative play call or conservative game plan. And I do wonder if the Eagles will be able to effectively throw the ball if Hurts's shoulder is still less than 100%, because I really don't think they'll be able to run the ball that effectively, at least nowhere near as effective as it was last week. But with all things being considered, I think 46.5 is way too high. I see a physical slugfest, a bit of a war here between two extremely physical teams and two very good defenses. I see this game finishing somewhere around 23-20, maybe 2017, but 46.5, I think, is a very high total for two really, really good defenses. So I'm going to take the unders. Play that once again here for Sunday, January 29th is going to be on the Niners and Eagles under 46.5 at -120 on FanDuel. Bye, everyone.